Welcome to Margin Business Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. In today's episode, we got a very special guest. We got Robert Indries. Robert is the chairman of the International Expansion Team at Restroom Corporation. Restroom is an ethical multinational corporation focused on helping organizations leave an ever greater positive impact. The company operates in 3 distinct sectors through its independent business units: Restroom Engineering, Restroom Digital, and Restroom University. Welcome, Robert. Thank you for joining us today, Robert. It's a pleasure to have you here, and we would like to find out your way to success from early life to up to today, what you're doing today. Let's start with where you at the moment and where you grew up, and how was the upbringing? Was there anything entrepreneurial in your family, or what was your background?
Got it. Okay, well, obviously, thank you so much for having me, Omar. I think the mission of the podcast is great, as far as I know about it. So I appreciate being here. So where I am right now. So currently, I own 10 unique businesses in different industries with headquarters in various different countries and continents. We operate. So if I am to take my portfolio as a whole, the portfolio operates globally. We have, I don't know, thousands and thousands of clients everywhere on the world, buying everything from multi-million-dollar software development projects to innovate in their business, to very small little games for couples, that you can get for $15 on Amazon. So various different types of businesses. I'm currently in a very good place, as in, for example, last night we had a chat with a potential client in the US. They're running a very nice company for or to help therapists that work with children in need, that have some sort of learning, or needs or communication deficiencies and so on the autism spectrum, or things like that. And love their mission, love everything they do. And we started talking. And at one point, one of them said that something like, "Oh gosh, I have back-to-back meetings today." And I said, "Well, that's my entire life." And then I screen shared. I showed them my calendar. I think I have 40 something meetings today, this week, which is a very typical week for me. And they're like, "Well, Robert, when do you work?" Like, I don't work. What? Everyone else works, right? I don't. Like, that's the point of building a business, right? The point of building a business is that you don't need to be in the spotlight, right? You're building an entity that thrives, on its own resources, right? So what's the point of having a sales unit if I need to be there to close the sale or to generate the lead? What's the point of a marketing unit or marketing division if they can't generate leads? I need to be there to, hold their hand and help them. That's not the point. Point is to hire very competent individuals that can do the work in your absence, right? And they thrive in doing the work in your absence because they don't want to be told what to do, right? In our companies, we have very democratic ways of working. I never tell anyone what to do. The only things we agree on are targets. And then we have like either weekly or bi-weekly meetings or whatever, depends on the team.
Sorry to interrupt your podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I really appreciate you having you here today, listening to this video. And I wanted to let you know that Margin Business can help you to optimize, localize, translate your listings on Amazon Europe. One more thing. If you like our channel, please hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Thank you. Now enjoy your podcast.
And we discuss initiatives, priorities, right? And then they tell me, these are my priorities. This is what I'm going to do to hit my targets for the month. and then we can have a little chat on them. I can agree, I can disagree, I can use what I see because I'm typically several steps ahead of the business, and I can say, well, this is coming around the corner and this is going to happen, right? So be careful for these things. And then basically, we have amazing people across my portfolio. We have, I think, like 120 staff or more. So I never know the exact number because we keep hiring and hiring. Like I keep seeing people come up in chat in Slack in like the HQ channels, and people are like, hey, everyone, please welcome Frank. He just joined, and so on. So it keeps changing. The number keeps growing every year. Over the course, I think over the course of the last 5 years, we've grown every single year, no exception, but like significantly, like year after year after year after year. So we're making several millions of euro, and it's an amazing place to be. And I have, the team. In terms of early days and how I got here. Early days, I grew up most of my time on a farm. I used to.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I loved it. It was so nice. I still think and remember everything I did with joy. We used to spend an entire day going out with cows because cows needed to eat, and we would take them on the hills. And so we used to take. I remember it was so good because you didn't want to pace like the family. It was easier to have the children take the cows out because it was a very minute task. Like just make sure they don't kill themselves or someone doesn't steal them, right? That's it. So then you just take out the cows, and then you stay with them for a few hours, and then you come back, right? And so we would take food with us, and it was so interesting. I kid you not. Whenever I see people complain nowadays, I'm like, gosh, you're so entitled. I can't believe it. But we would go out, we would take like half a bread with us, like we would cut the bread into two or whatever, or slice it up, and then we would take that bread with us. We would have a piece of pork, something like pork fat or pork meat or something, or some chicken or whatever, I don't know, or some boiled eggs. We would like boiled eggs and the onion, right? And that's it, or whatever. So, or something, we would take apples, or we would go buy some apple trees and pick apples, and eat those or whatever. So that was it. And then we would make a fire for ourselves, and then in that fire, we would melt the pork fat, and then we would put that onto the bread, and then eat that with the onion and whatever. I'm much more vegan nowadays. I'm like 95% vegan now for the health benefits and everything else. But back then, I was like 5 years old. I could barely walk and speak. So it was very good, and we would just go out, me and a friend or 2-3 people, whatever, and we would just have fun. Like the cows were just minding their own business, just walking around eating, right? And we would have to figure things out of how to entertain ourselves. So we would play catch, we would go into the close to the forest, and do stuff in the forest. It was just amazing. And
I can see that, I can see this in front of me, because then I see a tree, you can climb on a tree, the
yes,
cars are
I used to climb around.
Everything is green, it's I can see the picture, it must be really nice for kids,
Loved it. It was so good. And Diana and I, as you know, we are preparing to become parents next year. So basically, Diana's in a lot of groups for moms, and stuff like that. And we're doing research on how to be good parents and so on. And sometimes, Diana sees things like, like my child is bored and I don't know how to entertain them and stuff like that. And she's like, what are these moms talking about? That makes no sense. They don't need to be entertained, And she's like, if I would have ever gone to my mom to say, Mom, I'm bored, she would have just said, okay, go wash the dishes. Okay, go clean up the laundry. Okay, go sweep the floor. Like, there's just so much to do. If you're bored, that's fine. There's just so much to do all the time, right? we were never raised to, oh gosh, you're bored, you have nothing to do, let me play with you. No, just figure yourself out, right? And then we'll have dinner together, we'll have lunch, we'll have breakfast, we have family time, and then it's your day. You do whatever you want, right? You're a child. You go out, you play, you whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so we very different upbringings than most of
But
society
now, yeah.
today. So that's me. And then I always love, like, at one point I remember, or I'll never forget, when I was young, very very young. I saw a book in a library, and we were
Okay.
very poor. We could never afford to buy stuff, and so if I would go to my father and say, could I get money for a chocolate? He's like, no, right? We don't have money for chocolate. But if I would go and say, I want to buy a book, he said, how much does it cost? Right? And then he would give me money, and
Exactly.
I can go buy the book, and then I could read the book. So smart parents, I must say, smart parents. My
You remember
father
that
was
book?
sorry.
You remember that book that you have seen?
I remember it. I still have it. I have all of the books I've ever bought.
Very
I
good.
have all of
Very
them.
good.
They're in my library in my hometown, and I still have that book. And I look at the cover of it, and I'm so blessed, and I love it, and I twirl it, and I read through it, and like, gosh, this must have been so exciting for me as a child. Even now, I look
I'm
at it, I
sure.
get excited because it impacted me. But the book was The Evolution of Technology.
Okay.
It was a
Yeah.
big book. It was strong, like it was a hardcover book, which back then it was very rare. Normally, you would get like, these soft cover books,
Okay.
like this, for example, soft cover normal
Yeah,
books.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yes. The
But
soft.
that
Yeah.
one, that
That
one
was
was like
still
a
the one,
real,
like the real big ones, which
yeah,
have an
yeah, yeah, like
outside,
with
and
the
yeah.
images, and
Yes.
like all every they had like all the pictures, and every page was like laminated or something. I don't know. Like it was an
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
expensive
yeah.
thing, or at least I thought, but it was on the shelf. It was like there, like in the library, and it was red. I remember, and it had, if I remember correctly, it had a vacuum cleaner, right? It had a vacuum cleaner on the main cover, and it was
Okay.
cut in half. Like you could
Okay.
see the inside of the vacuum cleaner, like in 3D. And I saw it, and like, I didn't know it has so much stuff in there. The vacuum cleaner. We didn't even have a vacuum cleaner. We used to mop, and just sweep the floor. So it was so interesting, and I thought, oh, this is cool. And then I started turning the pages, and it would explain how a microwave works, how this works, how that works, how everything works. Like, gosh, this is so interesting. And I
Oh,
went
this
to my
was really
father.
like kind of a technical book, as
Yes,
a
yes.
wow, and as a young boy, being interested in that's just really good.
Well, I mean, I loved it. Like, I was
Great.
intrinsically interested.
Yeah,
I looked
sure.
at it like, wow, this is so cool. Like, this explains how things works, and so many other things, and it would explain. Yeah, I remember the pages. It's just it's nice. So that left an effect on me.
Okay.
And then I started wanting to learn more and learn more, and figure out how things work. And but my problem was that we were poor, so we couldn't really afford anything. And at one point, I realized that there's a lot of knowledge online, but I can't get to it if we can't buy it, because back then blogs weren't a thing, websites
Yeah.
weren't a thing. It's just
What
20
year were you
years
talking
ago.
about? 1997,
2000.
98, 2000.
Yeah, like before 2000,
I was
2000.
still very, very slow. Was still there.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, our
Napster was a thing
internet
to
was,
download the books and everything. Yeah,
yeah,
music.
yeah. Our internet was through the phone, Omar. Like,
Yes, I
if someone
remember.
was
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
phone, your internet would drop, or if someone would call you, like, which
Yes,
you can't
yeah, yeah, yeah.
control.
It's. I
If
forgot the
someone
name. I forgot the name. There was there was this special. It's
dial
like a
in, it's modem.
dial-in. Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, it was dial-in internet. We had it, and it was so weird, and it made this weird sound every single time. I don't know. It's just like such a weird sound
Yeah,
every
yeah. I
time
know.
it
I
would
remember.
connect. So we had the dial-in. Basically, the information wasn't freely accessible as it is today. Or, now 90% of the world's wisdom, I think you can find online. Like,
Yes,
not
it's
exactly. Like,
amazing. If you know,
much.
yeah.
Yeah. But back then it wasn't, anything like any book, any knowledge, you had to buy. You actually had to buy everything. You had to buy the CDs, you had to order them, you had to pay for shipping, and it was expensive, and it's just like now it's like same day shipping in 2 hours, it's at your doorstep. Like, what are you talking about?
No,
I used to wait for 2 weeks to get the CD, and I used to pay a fortune for the CD would cost like $50 for one CD, and the transportation was another 50. It was like crazy, but that was the reality of that we lived in. So I wanted to have money to be able to do that. And then I started thinking, like, how can I make money? How can I make money? And so I had some money stored up because what my parents used to do, they used to give me small bites of money to do chores. And I would do all of them. Any chore that was made available to me, I would just do, And I would make, but we're talking 50 cents type of money,
yes,
like
sure,
not like here's
still.
$10 go. No, 50 cents type of, I'm gonna give you some money, right? But then 50 cents plus 50 cents plus 50 cents, I had hundreds of dollars. And so I had all of that money stacked up, and I didn't know what to do. But something I figured out is that, because I had friends, and a CD in Romania back then costed 100,000 lei, which was, I don't know the value in dollars. Let's say the number doesn't matter. Let's say it was $10, right? The value of it was $10.
Okay.
A CD with stuff on it, like with a game, like Warcraft or Starcraft or a movie or music or whatever. But the CD itself cost $5. I'm like, the CD cost $5, but people are willing to pay 10 if it has information on it. And back then, I don't know if you know, but there was a thing. There were peer-to-peer. There were a DC plus. There was like peer-to-peer connectivity. So if you had the movie on your computer, you can make that accessible for the community around you or whatever, and then they can get the movie from your computer directly into theirs. But in order to have access to the community, you had to share whatever you had, like a game or music or whatever. And so the more you would share, like information, the more you would have access to. And so there were people with gigabytes of music that they bought for themselves. There were people with gigabytes of games that they bought for them. And by the way, back then, gigabytes was a big deal because one game was like 700 megabytes, right? So if you had like 10 gigabytes of games, you had like 15 games, which was a big deal, right? Now, if you download World of Warcraft, it's like 80 gigabytes, one game, or any game. It's like tens, like 50 or 100 gigabytes, like crazy. You need a hard drive just for games, if you play a game. Yeah, exactly. So, but back then it was a very different story. And the same with movies and anything else, like programs, applications, And so,
but they took days as well to download, huh? You remember?
Sorry?
They took as well days to download.
Yes. It took a long time. Like you would stay there and wait and look at. I remember staring at that for hours, just like, come on. It was kilobytes a second. I was like, look at it had like 700 megabytes, so it took like 17 days to download. But at DC made it much easier and much faster because it would use the wires between the community, right? So if you would download something from someone in the same city, it would work like maybe not megabytes, but half a megabyte a second, and that's very, in the same day you have the information, right? Which is great. So I figured out, so I had this resource, right? I had access to information and things that people wanted, like data. And I knew that they're willing to pay $10 for it, and I can get my business cost is half that, is 50%, right? And I was, by the way, I was like 8.
You were 8. That's what I wanted to ask just now. How old you were?
Yeah, this was like before high school. Like I remember, because in high school I already moved, but this was before high school. So it was like 10, 11 but I started when I was very, very young. I think we got our first computer when I was like 8. That wasn't good enough. And then I got the my computer, which I had like at 10 or 11 or something like that. So yeah, I was probably at 10 or 11, not 8. We had our first computer when we were 8, but CDs weren't a thing when I was 8. CDs started becoming a thing in like 2000, I think, or something
Yes.
like that. And that's when we started having this, and that's when I figured this out. Okay, so what did I do? The money I had, because I already had a computer. So the money I had, I used to buy a CD writer with, right? That could write CDs. So then what I did is I bought a couple CDs for $10, and then I asked my friends, what do you want? And they said, well, I want all of the album of this guy on a CD, and I'm willing to pay $10 for it. Okay, what do you want? Well, I want this movie. Okay, fine. Again, information not accessible online back then. You couldn't, right? You couldn't get the movie. You couldn't get only if you would buy like the original album, and even like then you couldn't order it anywhere online because the band didn't have a website. You had to go to the concert and get it live at the concert. It was just a very different world back then, right? So so we had that stuff, and two people said, okay, I want this and I want that. Okay, good. I went home, someone obviously had that, and then someone else had the movie and whatever, and I put it on these two CDs, and I went and I sold them for $20. So I spent $10, I made 20. And then I used the $20 to buy 4 more CDs and find people that want more stuff. And I kept doing that over and over and over again. And then now I have money. So I had a 50% profit margin, and I kept using that. Because obviously
that's a lot. 50% is good. It's really good.
But back then, yeah. If I would have paid internet and electricity and all of that, it was probably 20% profit margin. But for me, as a child, I wasn't paying those things, so I had my profit margin was a bit bigger. Also, I wasn't paying salaries or anything. So it wasn't a real business, especially I was dealing with people that don't have money. They're like children my age or a bit older or whatever. I'm going to say something that's maybe not very good to hear or whatever, but there was, and I'm not proud of it, just so we're clear, but there was also, I figured out at one point people started knowing that I do this. And by the way, this was 100% illegal. So just to make it clear for everyone.
Yes, yes.
As a little boy at 10, you don't really understand law or things like that. You're like, oh, this person is willing to pay $10 and I can get it for $5. Fine, there you go, right? This was illegal and I shouldn't have done it. At the same time, I don't think I did so much damage to the world, right? I wasn't like a magnet of selling this stuff. I was having fun, and I was making some money on the side. And then, but people started hearing that I do this kind of stuff. And then older guys, because I was like 10, 11, older guys, like 2 generations older than I am, 2 school generations. They're like 16, 17, 18, 19, whatever. They started asking me, could you get us porn? Could you get us this type of, we're like, oh, well.
Terrible, yeah.
I'm like, well, okay, I can do that, but it will be $20, or $30 or whatever, so much more. I'm like, sure, I'm willing to pay that. I said, okay. And then I went into the same strong DC++, and I was like, oh, well, people have this stuff. Okay, I'll just download it and give it to these guys. So I did that as well. It didn't last very long because then I started gaining maturity at one point. It's when you start understanding the world, I think. Like, right
it's
when
wrong, actually,
Yeah, right when you hit high school, like you start thinking in terms of ethics. Like you start actually growing up. I think you're experiencing that with your 11-year-old. He starts thinking of what's good, what's right, what's wrong, and so on. You start raising like your consciousness level. And so I started raising that, and then I stopped. I stopped doing it, so it lasted me like a year or 2 years, but that's one of my first entrepreneurial ventures that I remember vividly, doing. And I said, well, there's a demand and there's, a profit margin, you should have a business, So we did that. I did that.
Obviously, with the ethical, like you already said, with the ethical stop at some point.
Of course.
Because, there is there is making money and making money, So, and if you keep it on the good side, you make good money for long term. But if you go, to the unethical side, then as well you get drifted into another direction, which is obviously not good.
there's still a lot of money to be made in non-ethical things, and I believe that's the problem, right? Because if there
Yes.
wouldn't be money to be made, then it wouldn't exist. Like,
Yes.
the cartels wouldn't do what they do if they wouldn't risk their lives, their families, their everything if they wouldn't have the opportunity to make millions in it, right?
They
And
would
they
find
wouldn't
something
see.
else. Trust me, they would find something else. They would find something else, maybe because we talk here about negativity. Even though they have the opportunity to do something good, they would still go in that direction, because it's just in their, they need to change themselves in order to change what they do, because they will always search for these type of negative things,
Yeah. No, I agree. And again, the reason why they keep going back to that is because they can, and because there's money in it. I remember in Westrom, which is one of my oldest businesses. At one point, I think 4 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, we got a client. They were a client in France, or sorry, a prospect, not a client. We got a prospect in France. And Westrom has multiple divisions. We do engineering, and we build stuff, which is what I'm very passionate about. So we build a lot of stuff for many companies all around the world. We have digital, in which we help people promote their stuff, right? So anything that has to do with SEO, PPC, and so on and so forth. We don't do Amazon, but that's not. We never specialized in that. We always had a different approach. But I think you guys do, right? So
yes, that's why we have partners all over. When we don't know something, we just get the knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have the consulting area, right, where we go into a business and say, okay, how can we take this business from 500,000 to 5 million, or from 20 million to 100 million, right? And we've done that over and over and over again. So we have those three main business units, but this client came in through the engineering branch, and he told us what they want, like a secure server. We would need to set it up. We would need to manage it. We would need to do everything. We would need to build an online portal. It would have to be optimized for search engines. It would have to have sort of like a booking thing, and so on, like all of the features. And they explained everything. And I took everything. And I told them, at the end of the first call, I'm like, but this is a very big project. You're asking for a lot. Do you know? I just want to set expectations properly, like any good salesperson sets expectations,
sure,
right?
Sure.
And he's like, Robert, I have millions to throw at this. I'm fine. Just let me know how much it costs, and I'll make it happen. Wow, that's what you want every prospect to say. Like, okay, fine. Sure. I'll go back. I'll quote, and I'll let you know. So I did all of that. But then my team, at one point, I had the same question, but it was going just so well. The sales call was going so well because he was feeding me everything he wanted to be sold on, like boom, 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 all of the things, right? And I was like, okay, well, I'll take that and I'll give it to my team. We'll figure out a plan, and then we'll see what we'll do. We ended up figuring out that we actually need to be paid to create a plan because it was so complex, right? So it was like 20 grand just to create the entire structure of things. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I had the call, and I had the discussion with my team internally, and they asked, but Robert, what is this going to be for? Because he never said he just said the features and what he wants. Like, he never said what this is going to be for. Yeah, I thought to myself the same thing. I don't know. It sounds like an e-commerce website or something, like where people can book stuff, like, like services or whatnot. I said, okay, let's see. This is also before you could like book services online, like Rabbit Task or so on and so forth. So I think I felt, he's innovative, and he's thinking of stuff. I said, okay. And then I came up with, with our proposal and so on. And, I said that we sort of need, some money to figure this out and to do research and to figure out server costs and create a very detailed plan for you, like do like a business feasibility assessment, which we now is part of a service that we do. And he's like, yeah, sure. Tell me the account. I'll just wire. How much do you need? 20 grand. You know, like, what? This is too easy. This is too easy, you know? And I kept, and I asked, you know, like, what's
That's
the
red
business
flag
going to
straight
do?
away. Yeah.
You're like, what's the business going to do? And he's like, well, Robert, I can tell you context, and then I can tell you what the business is going to be. I'm like, okay, tell me context. They're like, well, I'm a real estate developer in France. I have many, many apartments on the coasts of France, right? In the most exquisite places you can think of, right? And I figured out I figured out a few years ago that one of my best clients and most returning clients and so on and so forth are escorts or people that have escorts, right? And because I didn't know, I mean, you create an asset and you're going to rent it. And then he said it just so happens that those type of people started renting my apartments. And then I started knowing all of them. I started knowing all of the clients and I started knowing all of the escorts. He said, I have a black book with 600 escorts, Robert, right? And so, and they are, you know, being booked on other websites. And then they're coming to my apartments. I'm like, well, why can't I have the website? I have the apartments. I know the clients. I know the escorts. I have everything. I have everything I need. I can do that and then get a cut of the booking as well. And I'm listening to this guy. I'm like, gosh, such a good business guy, such a good business. I mean, he's figuring this out. I literally figuring all of this out. And then I'm thinking, and then I'm like, well, aren't there negative things to doing this? And he's like, well, no, and especially not in France and in almost no country, because you're not selling bodies or things like you're selling the company of someone at this fancy event, right? Because someone's going to a ball or a gala or whatever, and they get an escort to go to that ball with them, right? Or whatever, to just keep them company on their 7-day trip to France or whatever, you know?
Okay.
So I understood. I said, okay, well, yeah, it's legal. I get it, and blah blah blah. And he explained. But then I went back to my team, and I said, I can't shake the feeling that we shouldn't do this, you know. And we had the chat with the team because for us, it was like infinite money, right? Because the guy said, anything you want, Robert, name your price, literally name your, because I've talked to other dev teams and other engineering teams, and they're not nearly as competent as you guys. You guys can do everything because of my background as a civil engineer, we know servers, we know DevOps, we know infrastructure, we build websites, we have the marketing capability to say what's going to sell, what's not going to sell, how should we build this, you know, what features should be built. I mean, all of that. And so the guy was just literally wanting us to build up that entire infrastructure of the business, right? And then he brings the clients and so on, and the users. And then I had the chat with my team and with my co-founder and with everyone. I'm like, guys, infinite money, literally. Our dream come true financially, millions of euro. And I think I was around 25 at the time. Okay. And I just became a millionaire that year. You know, so I was just, and so here was my chance to like double or triple my net worth with one project, right? And like, damn. And so we thought about it for like a couple of days, and we thought, and we had conversations back and forth. And then eventually we decided that we don't want to do the project, right? Like it just because our motto, like imagine this, in Westrom, our slogan is creating a better tomorrow.
Yeah.
Our slogan,
this will be completely against the ethics of the company and the ethics of people as well. Yeah, I understand.
Exactly. So we're like, and we thought about that so much. We repeated that slogan so many times in those 2 days, like creating a better tomorrow. Does this project create a better tomorrow? Does this business create a better tomorrow? You know? And we were thinking, well, yeah, but we can make so much money and then we can use that money in good stuff. But we're like, but the money is dirty to begin with, right? It's like, I don't know.
It will not clean themselves, you know, you need to throw it away. It will not...
Exactly. So we had that opportunity and we're like, this is just not in line with what we want to do. Like, yeah, it's multiple millions of dollars for who knows how many years, because that industry is still around. I mean, this would have been 5 years of revenue. We could have made like $5 million or more, by this time, But we said that, this does not feel right. So I didn't know how to tell it to the guy because, again, he wasn't about the ethics or not. He was just an amazing business person, right? And he knew everyone.
Putting aside
the wealthiest people in France and all over the world, this guy knew them.
Okay.
He was in touch with everyone, and he still is, obviously, to this day. But I was like, I didn't know. I was like delaying it. I didn't want to tell him no, right? Because he was just such an influential person. I didn't know how to speak to the guy. And now, obviously, I'm more mature than that. But then, I was 25, new in every aspect of life. So I was like, well, I was just postponing it, and a miracle happened. It's so interesting. A couple months or a few weeks, because the guy was super busy. Like, we could just barely talk and so on and so forth. But a few weeks or a couple months, I can't remember. Like, we had another follow-up conversation with him, and he told me that, Robert, I've been thinking, like, you guys are setting things up and so on, and thinking about this and what you should do and so on. Because I ended up telling him, you know what, don't pay us any money. We'll do the research on, for us, and they just kept postponing stuff. And he said, Robert, I've been thinking, about this, and I've been thinking I really don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't want to rent my apartments either. I just had a really change of heart. I have my own children, that are growing up,
decision.
And they're like, it's like, I don't feel I want to do this anymore, and I feel I was excited because I knew there are millions and millions to make, and I knew it's like around the corner. Because he said, Robert, let me tell you what, in real estate, yeah, you make money, yeah, you make cash flow, everyone wants to be where we are, but there are millions to put in. Like, you need to spend so much to get that apartment, on the Riviera of France. It's like so expensive to build or to buy or to whatever, right? And then I at this point invested more money than I pulled out. Yeah, I'm making a lot of money, but I'm still I didn't even break even. With this, I would have increased my profit margin so much that I would have instantly made money back, right? And so he saw it as like an out, as like retirement, and so for him, it was like he worked his entire life. These guys, like, we look at them and we can judge them all we want, but these guys have been working every single day for the past 30 days, and that's 30 years, and that's admirable, And so I realized that, his hunger for, building, his empire and so on was strong. But eventually, his consciousness came up with this. Like, when I spoke to you the first time, I was very, very excited because I was seeing the money and so on and so forth. But then the more I thought about it, the more I said, I don't want to do that. And so I really appreciated the guy. It's like, well, I was going to make millions, but this guy probably was going to make tens of millions, And so he said, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. Because guess what? With the new platform and SEO and everyone coming to that, he would have had even more bookings and to his apartments, and he could have built even like tens, hundreds of millions.
Yes.
He would have been one of the biggest real estate developers in the country, at one point. So he said no to that. And so I appreciated that. And I said no to like, consciously, I said no to working with him weeks before that. And then it was just such a good outcome. Such a good outcome. Now we're still friends. And we still he stopped doing all of that. He never did that. He actually moved out of France. I think he sold the things he had because he had like the feelings or something. I didn't know. But he moved out. He probably pocketed millions. And he just left. He did something else. And so we're still friends. And we never did that. We never did the non-ethical thing. Neither of us. And
great.
So. Very good. Yes. And he still has all of the relationships, obviously he speaks less to certain types of people that he knows, but he was introduced to a lot of people. So the guy will never die of hunger. Just, he, at any point in time, if he loses everything he has, he makes a couple of phone calls, he can do stuff. So really
It's
love
a,
the outcome of it.
it's a very important point what you just bringing up, because in business you will come across so many things. You will come across, as somebody wants to throw at you so much money, gives you the biggest project, as you say. It happened to me not only one time, it happened to me quite a few more times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is one thing what we now outline when we work with somebody is we don't do weapons in listings, or we don't promote them. We don't help them to promote, because in the US, obviously, you can promote weapons on Amazon, and we don't promote any adult stuff or anything which would downgrade any type of human, or woman or man, anything of that kind. Everything what is even on the borderline, I would not touch. So we really try, this is our ethical side of the company. We really go only in the positive direction in order to help, and in order to help entrepreneurs, and to make money with items which will build the future, as your company slogan says, to help to form the future. And this is something I really appreciate. And I think many people should look at this, and stop just taking any project which makes them money, because money, it's like you said, it's going to come and it's going to disappear, because it's not good money. Exactly.
Yeah.
I just wanted to outline it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, Omar, and I'm glad you said that, because that's part of our philosophies now. Because as you evolve as a company, you start learning things you start, like, what defines you, right? What defines the culture of the company, and so on and so forth. So, for example, especially after that, even until that, we were very much like, your product or your business needs to make the world a better place somehow. If not, then we probably don't want to work together, right? But even if it's neutral, like you make toilet paper, right? Neutral, that's fine, and we're perfectly fine with that. Or you make glasses is obviously a good thing, right? Because it helps people. But you make, let's say, these things, that I showed you earlier. You make these like salt lamps, right?
I like them from the start directly.
Directly. So you make these. Salt lamps. It gets very, very warm, right? And you breathe the salt in, so it's very good for your lungs. So let's say you make those. Anything you make, like, we can help you, no problem. I love that. However, we said for a long time now, I'm not religiously, I'm not Muslim or things like that, but we don't help anyone with alcohol.
Exactly. I forgot alcohol. I forgot alcohol. I don't
no tobacco
as well.
No tobacco or other drugs. And we had CBD companies come to us, or
there's
things like
a lot. I forgot these type of things. I forgot it.
Yeah,
this is as well something we don't promote.
Wineries came to us, spirits came to us, so many things, like big companies, making
they have a lot of money, but
and I'm like, I'm sorry, but I don't want to promote men coming home and knocking themselves with alcohol instead of playing with their freaking children and loving their wives. I don't want to promote that. That's not something I do. And people can say, well, no, if you drinking it in moderation and blah blah blah. You know what? If everyone on the planet would drink in moderation, then the quantity of money alcohol companies make would be reduced by 90% probably. But the problem is, people do not drink in moderation, right? They don't drink. They don't drink.
Human being cannot control themselves, no.
Right? Exactly. So we don't want to promote that, and many other things like that. Obviously, escorts, and anything that has to do with adultery and things like that. So we don't do any of that. And yes, we're saying no to probably millions every year, that we could make. But I'm like, okay, that's millions someone else can make. As far as I'm concerned, I'll grow my business on my terms, with my cultural, let's say, standards and limits of what I can and cannot do, and that's about it. So
very good. I think it's very good. Restroom in general.
Yeah.
Can you give us some some detailed information about Restroom And as well, I mean, you already had a few examples of what you're actually doing, but as well, how is Restroom different from the competition, for example?
Well, we have 12 USPs, 12 unique sales propositions in Westrom. And that's important because, many companies struggle to find one thing that differentiates them, right? But we have 12 things that differentiate us from our competition. And I can tell you, a few of them today, just to give you an idea. So one thing that differentiates us, for example, is that we are not a software development company, right? We are not a marketing company. We are not a consulting company. At the same time, I can tell you we're not an SEO company, or we're not a PPC company, right? Okay. Or we are not a Shopify development company, or we're not, we're none of that. We are the General Electric of digital, right? What we do, so what General Electric does for energy, aviation, transportation, logistics, right? What they do, they have a core competency of taking your business forward. That's their core competency. Okay. It doesn't matter what you do on the planet to innovate, to take the society forward, General Electric can help you. That is their business model. They have expertise in aviation. They have expertise in energy. They have expertise in all of these. And that's why you go to them. If you have an airplane company, if you started tomorrow, you will not build your own engines. You will get the engines from General Electric because they've been doing them for a freaking 100 years. Yes. And they have experts in energy, experts in engineering, experts in aerodynamics, experts in everything, in every field. So that is the vision of Westrom. We want to be the GE of digital. One business can come to us. We have Shopify experts, we have WordPress experts, we have DevOps experts, we have AWS experts, we have Microsoft Azure experts, we have SEO experts, we have PPC experts, we have business analysts, we have business consultants, we have everything you would need. We have 85 seniors, everyone senior in their own area. So when you come to work with Westrom, you don't just get the SEO experts. Guess what? We have a conversion rate specialist that takes a look at the website and tells you, doesn't matter how much traffic you drive to this, you'll still only have a 0.something% conversion rate. Yeah. Let's first work on your freaking conversion rate to get that up to maybe 2 to 3%. And then every 100 organic traffic extra we bring to your website is 3 extra leads. Otherwise, you're wasting money on SEO, right? 100%. So we have that. So that's one of our biggest USPs. You have that nowhere. They're like, literally, just look. Just don't trust me for it. Look at every software development company. They don't do that. Look at every marketing company and look at every consulting company. They have none of that. So the way I've set it up is I've set up what I've read everything there is to read. Probably. I mean, no, I'm exaggerating. I read a lot of the public domain information about General Electric, about how they came to be, about, what's their philosophy, about, the CEO, Jack.
I don't know his name really. Right now, the new one.
Jack was something with the W. Jack. I'll remember it maybe until the end. So I've studied all of that, and I realized that the reason why people go to them is because there's nothing in the realm of civil engineering that those guys can do. Nothing. Okay. Nothing. Yeah. Like you go to them and then they know everything. They have all of the expertise. And you're willing also to pay more because you know that when you work with them, you get highest quality level of service and product because their reputation is at stake if they don't, right? They wouldn't be the company that they are if, airplanes would start falling down. Right out of the sky as a result of their engines, but they're not. There are millions of planes in the air at the same time going around, and there are no crashes, and they're using General Electric stuff. That's why, right?
It's Jack Welch.
With everything else. Jack Welch. Yes, I knew it's Jack and the W. I can't because Jack Welch. Yes, so that's the guy. Thank you. And then so basically from there, I said, okay, I'm going to build up Westrom in a similar way, focused on digital, because everything is going digital, everything is digitally transforming, right? And so basically, I set everything up in terms of division, not departments, not same teams,
Okay.
unique, independent divisions,
Division.
their own clients, their own processes, their own teams, their own director of the division. Everything is unique to them.
Okay.
So we have Westrom Engineering, its own division. We have Westrom Digital, which does marketing, its own division. Westrom Consulting, its own division. Each one of these divisions can have access to the other resources, because guess what? It's in the same, it's in the same accounts. Like everyone's in the same Slack, and so on and so forth. So everything is in the same place. So one client comes in, that they say, I want an app built, right? Or I want this platform built. Okay, this and this and this is going to take X number of months. It's going to be $500,000, whatever, blah, blah. Okay, that's that. But then they say, well, I also want to promote it. I don't know, website for it, right? I want to tap into your business advice, because you guys have built SaaS before. You guys have built businesses before, startups, SMEs and enterprise, right? You guys have that experience. I want your consultancy. Should we sell it at this price or at this price? Should we launch like this or like this? Should we have this service or this service? And guess what? We can do that. So someone can come to us and say, Robert, I want to build up this business. Here's my budget. Can we make it happen? And then we can tap into all of it, right? So that's one USP that we have, and we have many others, 11 other USPs. I've been working on this project for the better part of a decade now, right? We're so blessed to have, I think we have 50 clients simultaneously, that we're working for, and it's amazing. And we're growing that, every single quarter we're adding more and more and more. So it's beautiful. I love it. And, that's a little bit about us.
It sounds really good. I mean, it's westroom.com, right?
It's 6 letters, WESROM, westrom.com, WESROM.
Okay. Yeah. Gonna put this here.
Sure.
So yeah, perfect. And one last question.
Yes.
Just a message to the world. What would be your message to the world, to entrepreneurs and to anyone who is highly successful or want to be highly successful? I
think there are many messages I would like to give out, and I actually have 5 books I want to release in the next 5 years. But,
great! We need to. You need to give me these books. I really want to.
Okay. Sure. But one thing I think that is very, very helpful, or that has been for me, is the concept or the philosophy to take 100% responsibility for everything in your life. And I can explain this philosophy with one example, a very good example. So one of my companies helps couples experience more love, joy, and connection. It's Better Topics, is the one we've met through on Amazon, right? Is the card game for couples, and we have memberships where we help couples communicate better with each other. And even if you have a great relationship, right? We work with those, and it's an extra activity to do once a month, and so on and so forth. So we just have that. We love it, and my amazing wife is the CEO of that. She's having a ball running it, and we've grown a lot. So if I ask anyone, if I ask them that they're in a relationship, okay, it's you and your spouse in your relationship. Can you tell me what's your level of responsibility for the success, like in terms of percentages? What's your level of responsibility of the success of that relationship? 95% of people will tell me that it is 50-50, right? Me 50%, them 50%. So okay, that's fair. I understand the concept. 5 people will tell me, you know what, it's like over 75 and then the other person, or it's 99% me and then 1% them, because they're still there, and so on and so forth. But it's more than 50. So I
would say 100,
Or you can say 100, yes. But there's only 100 to give. That's the point. There's only 100. You can't have 200. You can have only 100. And this is important. You have the constraint of just 100% because you are the only thing you can control on this planet. Nothing. You have 100% and that's it. You don't have a 200%. Because 100, 100, I'm a math guy, right? I'm a civil engineer. What I do with 100, 100, I divide that and I say it's the equivalent of 50, 50 is the equivalent of 1-1.
Yes.
So, but you don't have that. You have just 100, you decide. And then people say, okay, well, it's worst best case scenario, people say it's 99% and then 1%, because there's still that 1% that's them.
Yeah.
And I say, you're still not accepting 100% responsibility for your life. As long as you think like that, you're not accepting it, because the happiness of your relationship is 100% your responsibility, right? The growth of your family and the growth and the education of your children, 100% your responsibility, not theirs. Yes, they have their own way, their own path, whatever. If you guys are not a good fit, you have 100% responsibility to make that clear and to divorce or to do something. But you cannot, your happiness and your relationship's happiness is 100% your responsibility. The success or failure of your business is 100% your responsibility. You can't blame it on an employee. You can't blame it on the economy. 100%. You can't blame it on the client. You can't blame it on you being sick or on you being, you can't blame anything on anything. You are 100% responsible for every single thing that is happening in your life. That is a very scary place to be, because then you realize I'm poor because of me, or I'm not a millionaire because of me. My business isn't going as well as it could because of me. My relationship isn't going as well as it could because of me. It's a scary place to be, I can tell you, but it's the only position of complete power. The only, because there's no other position that is more powerful, because once you take full responsibility for every single thing in your life, then you can say, okay, well, guess what? It is what it is. It is what it is. Now, how do I make it better than it is? So it's only forward from there, right? And guess what? From there, you'll be the happiest person alive, because you take 100% responsibility. And if you're not happy today, you're going to have the freaking conversation with your spouse. And by the way, because you're responsible for how that conversation will go, you will have that conversation with utter love and respect and calm, because you're responsible for not having a fight. You are responsible, not them, not how they react, not how anything happens. You're responsible, right? So because you're responsible, you then, everything in your life just becomes so much better. I kid you not. Like, and I've been living by this rule for years and years and years. And I can tell you it's the only position of true power that one can be in.
That's amazing to wrap this up, because it's exactly what I'm thinking. And what I meant as well is the 100%, you know. It's it's a rule you have actually to live by, because it's true. It's you have to be 100% everywhere. It's not only in your relationship, in your house. You need to be 100% when you go to sports. You be 100% in your business. You be 100%. You be 100% everywhere. You know, if you're only 50%, then that means that the other 50% is somewhere else. You know, you cannot do that. Yeah. So it's a very good advice, and I think how you as well presented it, it's very understandable, and everyone should think about this and follow this. Really good. Thank you so much, Robert, for this conversation. And let's do this again. Let's speak soon. And it was amazing. Thanks for your time.
Likewise. Thank you so much. See you. Bye.
Bye.